you met what, just in class, school?
We met, sorry, are we, should we
start? Okay. Roll, yeah, they're rolling.
We met, we met at an art summer camp. So like I was there for film editing and he was there for acting at the time.
No way.
Yeah. But in North Carolina, and he was just like across the hall in the dorms from me.
Wait, that's so funny because he does not seem like an actor.
Yeah. I don't know. At the time, I guess he was thinking about going into acting. He was like a bass player. Like that's what I remember about that camp, is like he was always playing music, not acting. But so I kind of like found out towards the end of camp that that's what he was there for, because they didn't mix. It was like the film kids hung with the film kids and the actors with the actors. But because he was across the hall from me in the dorms, we got to hang out a lot, and it was just, I don't know. It was a strange camp. We got along. I don't know. It was hard to make friends.
And then did you guys, so then you didn't go to school together after that?
No, we just stayed in contact. I don't know why, but there's just something about him. He was just I liked hanging with him. I liked his perspective on life. And so we would catch up a lot on the phone and stuff. And then he started driving out to visit me in Maryland, and I would drive up to visit him in North Carolina, and did a couple like vacations with each other's family and stuff. And we got to know each other's family really well. And we're just like old buddies.
I love that. Yeah. Well, I mean, welcome to the Come Up with Katia.
Thank you very much for having me.
Zach Kashkett. Kashkett. Yeah. I love it. What's your origin?
Russian.
Russian.
Yeah,
okay.
Originally Russian.
I can see that. People think I'm Russian all the time. Cool. I like get in Uber rides, especially around Hollywood, and they just start speaking Russian to me. And I'm like, no, that doesn't happen. But
I guess these days, I don't know if it's.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. The conversation could be good or bad.
True. Maybe they just want to like check me for a second. Well, filmmaker, editor. Filmmaker, is that the proper just overall term? I never know what to say.
I feel goofy calling myself a director, to be honest. So I've been using filmmaker a lot.
Okay. Why do you feel guilty?
Because it's my first time directing anything. And so it feels like maybe I should do it again before I say I'm a director. I don't know. I don't know. What? No. I've been an editor my whole life. So I'm very, very comfortable calling myself an editor.
Since camp.
This is super new for me. So.
What was that camp called?
It's called University of North Carolina School of the Arts Summer Session. So I actually ended up going to that school for college.
No way.
And he didn't. Yeah.
Nice. Amazing. I love that. So The Mad Writer is your directorial debut. I love it. I love it. Where does the title The Mad Writer come from?
It's the name of his first album. Okay. And it's the name of a single. Yeah. L'Orange is the artist who the film is about. And it's the single off the first album he made is also called The Mad Writer. It was kind of like the single that got him noticed for the first time. Yeah. Yeah. And he performs it in the show or in the movie. And so.
What's so cool about the movie is, like you said, like you've known him your whole life. Throughout the whole thing, he's like giving you shit.
Oh yeah.
The entire time. So it's such like a personal look at it. Yeah. And it just feels overall just very like close to him. But then at the same time, the whole film feels very like well-rounded in terms of the storytelling. I thought that was amazing. Nice. And, you see such a progression from him.
Yeah. Like as a person.
As a person.
Yeah, I'm glad that you.
Because it starts out, I mean, I don't want to like spoil the movie, but it starts out, you feel for this guy right off the bat. And he's describes himself as weird. And what did he describe? He had some way to describe his music that I thought was awesome. It was like inaccessible.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like distinctly inaccessible. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
But I don't think his music's distinctly inaccessible at all.
I mean, I think he's gotten more, he's like found a pocket in the music industry, and he's started to become like fairly popular in certain circles. And I think he's sort of leaned into that sound maybe a little more. Certainly his first couple albums, there were some esoteric stuff. I mean, there was just stuff on it that was like,
so you got to go to the deep cuts.
Yeah, not exactly in the hip hop world, a little more instrumental, just musicianship. And some of that stuff was, you could call it inaccessible, I suppose. But I think he was making a joke. He's got such an acerbic, way of talking. I think he was just kind of trying to.
He was just giving you shit again.
Yeah, and probably a little bit, trying to not answer my question in that moment, probably.
So take me back to, you decide, you want to be a director. Did you always want to be a director? Let me go back.
No. And I mean, like, I would love to do it again, but truly this project happened just because I saw an opportunity.
Okay.
So to take you back, we started this in 2014, and in 2014 I was a commercial editor. I was a commercial assistant editor, and
in LA.
In LA, yep. I was working for a really brilliant editor named Einar Thornsteinson, and he was cutting a series of commercials that were like tourism commercials for a big state, and put my voice in it as like a temp cut, just needed a VO or whatever.
Yeah.
And it ended up going through. The client loved it.
No way.
So I started getting residual checks sent to my house, which is a very new thing for a 24-year-old or whatever. And they were not, they were from fairly substantial residual checks.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, commercial VO, that's
and it was like for a tourism for a state too. Yeah. So it was like a big state. So the spot aired in other countries to try to get them to come to this big state.
Wow.
So it got some play. And so I started getting checks, and I was like, I should do something with this to push my career towards the avenues, the places that I want to work. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't want to do commercials, and I really wanted to work in long form, and documentary is always like something that I've loved working in, and wasn't really getting like the opportunity to do that for my career.
Well, it's hard because there's a million factors, but one being financial.
Yeah. I mean, well, obviously like you have to either know people who hire you for the project, or know people who are, like an agent or something who's hiring, or who can get you onto a project, or you need to originate it yourself. And so that's what I was going to do. I was like, all right, I'll do a project. I'd also just finished cutting a documentary for about a year and a half that I was working like on the side, nights and weekends on.
Which one? Because you have a fun resume.
This didn't end up coming out.
Oh, okay.
So it was on a performance artist in New York, and it was really fascinating actually. But it was 2 directors, and I worked on it for a year and a half, unpaid. Yeah. And then at the
you really wanted to get into this.
I have no idea. I mean, like that was my MO for the first 6 years of my LA life out here. I was just working on anything all the time.
Well, you have to.
Yeah.
That's LA life that people don't realize.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a side hustle.
Yeah. And it's terrible because you kind of fool yourself into thinking, well, one of these will work, but really, if people can't afford to pay you for stuff, it's because the project is not that great.
But do you think that there's value in that?
In doing the work?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I got better as an editor.
Right.
Yeah. Every experience gets you better at what you're doing. So there was definitely value in that, but none of them ended up pushing my career forward in the ways that I shouldn't say none of them, but I was at a point where I was just kind of fed up and wanted to do something on my own. To finish that story, we got close to selling that feature. It was a feature doc. And then at the last minute, the 2 directors kind of started fighting with each other over the final cut, and it died. The whole project died. And so I was like, man, I've got this funny money this lottery win that I just had. And, I felt like during the process of that film, the one that died, I was sending these directors out a lot and being like, this is the shot we need. This is the answer to the question that we need. Just go get me this and it'll work. And it often did. So when it died, I felt like I had this weird confidence. I was like, I could just do that. If I could just find a great DP, I could just send him out and get shots, and I could go. And I had this weird, unearned confidence in that moment. So
what do you attribute that to?
I don't know. I mean, I've been an editor for so long. I felt like I could see how I felt like I knew I could put it together.
Okay.
I didn't know I could direct it. But I could put together a movie, and if I just had the right DP and the right subject.
Right.
So I started looking for a subject, and this is not how you should make a movie. You should have an idea for a movie, and then go make it. Not I want to make
a movie.
Yeah, if I had a movie that I made, then it would help my career. But it really was the case. I was trying to help me, and so I was looking around for someone to do a film on, and my first instinct was this guy who I knew who was the doorman of this building that I went to a lot. And
in LA?
Yeah, he was the doorman at a friend of mine's building, and I
didn't even know he had doormen in LA.
I know, it was strange. It was his office. So it was a security guard.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
And so he worked nights because during the day he was creating a fashion line, and he was super, it was just out of his apartment and he hadn't done anything with it yet, but he was super passionate about it. And I just kind of liked this dichotomy of a guy who's doing this super blue collar job, but super passionate about this artistic endeavor. I thought like you could get cool shots of him like putting on his suit to go to a security job, not sleeping because he's there all night, and then like coming home and cutting up clothes and so like really going for it. I thought it'd be cool.
Had you seen his clothing?
Yeah, he'd show, because I've chatted with him late at night and stuff. He's a super nice guy. And that was the other thing. He was like charismatic. I thought he'd be interesting on film, but he did not want to do it at all.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. He had like kind of a conservative family and didn't want to, just the idea of being the star of a thing. It was not.
That's so interesting because I feel like as a creative, if someone comes to you and you're like, I want to showcase you.
Kind of help you. Yeah. I know. I think it was because maybe my pitch wasn't very good. But my pitch was essentially like, it's not about your artistic endeavor. It's about you. Like I want to follow the passion behind the person, not the thing. And I think maybe he just didn't want to, show off his apartment and all that stuff. And I totally get it. I always say like, I do documentary for a living, really. It's crazy that anyone signs up for this. I would never... Just
because you're inviting people so close to your...
I would never let someone make a documentary about me. So it's always... Never. It's insane. Would you?
I mean, yeah, my whole life is out there. Like, I kind of don't care at this point.
I feel like I don't know.
I can get it where you're like every day you're waking up and you're like, oh my God, I have to let these people in my house again.
And like
sucks.
I feel like I have to clean my house all the time and stuff, and just I don't know, shave and wear nice clothes more than I want to. But
no, because that's the point of documentaries is like to be authentic and like catch you in your real element.
Yeah. I wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
But I'm very grateful that other people do, because I think when it works, it's really fascinating. It's such a wonderful, fascinating genre, and you get like this really amazing closeness to a subject or a thing. And so anyway, so yeah, that's kind of how it happened. 2014, when this doorman turned me down, I started looking around for like, well, who else do I know that sort of fits this bill, like is sort of a normal person doing this incredibly passionate artistic exploit. And I was like, well, this guy who I've been friends with for 20 years not only fits that bill, but he's got fans. He's like sort of got a following who would watch a film about him.
It's funny that you go there, you go to him after being turned down by this like charismatic creative guy, and then because Austin's not really that.
No, personality wise, they're pretty different.
Like if you talk about someone who don't follow me around, it seems like it's him.
Yeah, it was very difficult to get him to agree.
So you just call him up and you're like, bro.
Yeah, and he said no right away.
Of course,
yes, and,
of course.
Again, I think my pitch probably wasn't very good. I think. Probably I needed to write a pitch that didn't involve like, you're a normal guy, so let me follow you around all the time, because that wasn't working for people. But eventually, I have a friend out here named John Webb, who's a really, really talented music video director. And I had been cutting music videos for him for a while. And so when my first pitch got shot down, I was like, John, I think this is a good idea. Will you help me kind of conceptualize it and make it a better idea to get him to sign on to it? Like, even if we change it midstream, like help me come up with a pitch he'll accept and let us start shooting him.
Yeah.
And so we went back and pitched him several more times, and it took like a year to get him to sign on. And the pitch that he finally seemed to like was like, well, one of the more interesting things about you will be that we're making a film about you.
Okay.
So let's make it about the process of making a film about you.
Okay.
And he seemed to like that, and signed on, and we got our first shot off in October 2015.
And then how are you balancing at that point, your job in LA and flying out to shoot?
Yeah, not well.
Okay.
I mean, as best as I could, it took 8 years to do this thing because of my work in LA, really.
Okay.
We went back and forth and shot from 2015, from like the end, the first shot was like October 2015. So really the bitter end of 2015 to the very, very beginning of 2020. And that whole time I was cutting, but it would be like 3 months on, 5 months off kind of thing.
Really?
Yeah, I had to take long breaks because I'm lucky that I get to edit long form for a living, and it's like I'm doing what I've always wanted to do in that sense, but it's a really time consuming job.
Of course.
So, there was a long time where I was trying to do like an hour a night on the Mad Writer when I would come home from, and then there was a lot of nights where it's just like not possible.
Was the Mad Writer the title from the beginning? No. For a long time, it was L'Orange is Nothing. Then it was L'Orange is Nobody. And finally, people, it went through a lot of stages. I started submitting it to film festivals and it wasn't getting in, and I took it back and recut it for about a year. And during that time, I reached out to a lot of people who I trusted for advice. And one of the first things everyone was saying was like, well, your title is basically saying like, this doesn't matter and this guy isn't important. So why would anyone want to watch a movie about that? Okay.
I was like, well, it's a good point. And yeah, the Mad Writer in the end, it felt like obviously it's his album and his song and this sort of moment for him where it started to all work out was this album. But it also feels like it sums him up. Like he's just such an intense, passionate person about the thing that he's passionate about his art.
And then it almost being like taken away from him in a sense. And yeah, there's an intrigue around the title.
It's like a mysterious,
You're like, who's the Mad Writer?
I like that it's evocative.
Well, especially because if you know anything about writers, they're usually crazy. There's always something off about a writer historically. All the time. It's just going to be a little like
the really good ones.
The really good ones. That's what
I think that's probably true for music too. That's probably true for film, for everything, anything.
There was another thing he said that like really stuck out to me. I'm going to screw it up, but it was something about like good art can't be made in.
Yeah, if you're too comfortable.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that line.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Do you agree?
I do. Yeah. I mean, like, because I've been on shows or whatever, like movies that have felt like they were going incredibly well while I was on it, and then they just got torched by critics, or the final thing is just something I'm not proud of when I look back on it. And then I've been in projects that have been chaotic, and we've put in like crazy hours on, and then I look back and it's like it was so much better for the work and for the kind of struggle that went into it. You end up in a better place.
So you have to find a little balance of chaos.
Yeah. I mean, I do think, I think if it's going like incredibly well, probably should be a little concerned. Like it should be it's a hard thing to do to make a movie.
I mean, beyond, oh my God. Yeah. Beyond like the long stretches of filming and dealing with the subject who's like giving you shit through it the entire time.
Yeah.
What were kind
openly
of those,
combative.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a great term. What were kind of those unseen moments that were the chaotic struggles in creating the film? I mean, 8 years is.
Yeah. Well, the time was really I keep looking at this camera. I'm so
you can look wherever you want.
I don't want to like stare right down the barrel of it. The time was kind of the chaotic part, because I'm making a movie about a guy who's obviously never had a movie made about him, and my DP had never made a feature doc. And
how did you find your DP?
I went to film school with him.
Oh.
He was my next door neighbor at film school, and actually cut the senior film that he shot.
Okay.
And he's just like a great guy. And also he lived in Atlanta.
Oh, so
which
it's easier.
Yeah, the very first shoot was at All Three Coasts, this big hip hop festival in Atlanta. And I was like, well, you could just ride down the street and shoot for me. And it looked so good that I was like, well, you're the DP for this whole project.
That's awesome.
And he's wonderful to work with and just incredibly intuitive, and like probably half the shoots I wasn't there at all. Wow. Yeah. And so you asked earlier, like, how did I balance being here and flying back?
Yeah.
About 50% of the time I did fly back, especially for the interviews. I was there for every interview and the surgery and any of the like really important things. But a lot of the like L'Orange and his girlfriend going bowling, for example, like that kind of stuff that just happened on the cuff. A lot of that I wasn't there for. It was just Trevor shooting a day in the life.
So for people that don't really understand the filmmaking process, when that is happening and your DP is going out to shoot these things, are you involved in directing like any type of production shot list or anything like that? No,
not shot list. We would talk about, there were a couple of times where if there were performances, like if he was playing a show in Atlanta, I didn't fly out for that. And we would talk about certain shots that we needed.
Okay.
And if we talked more about like, if you're going to be there, let's make sure that we get this thing. And it would usually be like one or two things we knew we needed. And then it was just whatever they do that day, cover it and cover it as well as you can. And
I guess, is that different then it would be like shooting a feature versus documentary.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, well, I would have to be there every day for feature. Yeah. But also, you just know what you're looking for feature more.
Sure.
Like the great thing about doc is, I mean, half those shoots we didn't use in the movie, you know, like half of them ended up not being helpful, but the great thing is you don't know what you need. So you can shoot and shoot and shoot. And, that's what I love about it is because I approach it from an editing place and like, you want more coverage and more, situations shot. And then you can decide later what you want to use and what you don't.
Were you happy with everything that they went down?
Oh my, with what Trevor shot?
Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, he's incredible. And, every time I was like, well, they're going to go bowling. I know that. I don't know what else they're going to do that day, but they're definitely going to go bowling. I would get the bowling footage back and it would be like the most beautiful footage anyone's ever captured inside a bowling alley. And he's doing it on a little DSLR camera with often, you know, under his shirt because he's not supposed to be shooting or something. Yeah. I mean, there were times where we'd have to be kind of clandestine about it and it still looked so beautiful. So yeah, he's incredible.
That's amazing.
Trevor.
So how did you know when you're filming something like this? When do you know you're done filming?
Yeah. That's a good question. You don't. I mean, you know when the movie looks like what you want it to look like. Like I started cutting it like after the first shoot. So we had kind of a running rough cut of the movie the whole time.
Wow.
Yeah. And I wasn't showing that to anybody really. I mean, my DP, but I wanted to just kind of work on it. Like for a long time, nobody even knew I was doing this project at all. I was just kind of doing it in my personal time and I didn't want to tell anybody. But the subject didn't see it until it premiered. So that was an extra bit of anxiety for me.
And did he, I mean, I had imagined the answer is no, but is he calling you at any point, like Austin calling you at any point to inquire about like what's happening with the film?
During the 8 years?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is he?
Well, that's what I was going to say is the time when you first asked the question, the time was the most chaotic part because these 3 people I was making a film with who had never made a feature film were constantly calling me and saying, well, what's going on? Is it like even Austin, who's like, doesn't really want it to exist.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
He's still curious of, you know, he's shot it. It took a couple of years. He's curious. He doesn't want it to, he like both doesn't want it to exist, but also probably doesn't want it to just die or.
Yeah. Cause like I let you into my life and now you're
might
just.
as well be something.
Right.
But yeah, so that was difficult because I didn't have a good answer for anybody. It wasn't done because I had to step away from it for months at a time. And, but in answer to your other question about when you know filming is done, it's just like when the movie looks done. And because I had this running rough cut of it, I could keep watching it and just being like, we haven't quite cracked the nut. It's getting there, but you just kind of feel it. And, I guess I feel like by now I doing this for a living, I sort of know when we've cracked the nut, and I knew for a long time we definitely hadn't.
Okay.
So yeah,
it was just the feeling of like, now we finally got it.
Yeah. There was like a moment where I watched it and I was like, oh no, that's this movie, you know, it feels like what I had hoped starting out this would feel like. And I think that was more important to me than like whatever story we were telling or just the vibe and kind of editorial structure of it was important to me.
Is it typical? I mean, I know this is like your first directorial on documentary, but is it typical to like have the whole film edited and done and then know it's done, or is it okay?
I mean,
and not have to go back and shoot more, I guess is my question.
Oh, well, I don't know if that, especially these days, I don't know if that's typical because you know, everything's digital and it's cheaper than it used to be to go back and reshoot, and a lot of things can benefit from it, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like we got it to a place where we were all really happy with it. And usually the reason that I'm done with a film is because we've run out of the schedule or the budget or something. Yeah. So to get it to a place where we were all like, no, I don't know if there's anything else I want to do on this. Felt great. It felt like we had done it.
And budget wise, you know, I know you've got this little nest egg, but that is always what people are up against. Did you feel any stress on that side? Where you're like, we gotta.
Well, sure. I mean, by the end, we had blown through that budget, and I was just paying out of pocket.
You were just paying out of pocket.
Yeah,
okay,
very much so. But you know, by the time we blew through the budget, we basically had finished shooting him, and everything else that I needed to pay out of pocket for was like B-roll, graphic things.
Okay.
And so...
And you're an editor.
I'm an editor.
So
and I'm lucky to know a couple of good VFX guys and to have worked with a lot of cool
You're
post
like
people.
Cheat code.
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
you got to make a movie.
Not bad.
Work in post. It's, because that's like where a lot of the money's going to go.
100%. 100%.
So yeah, if you can get that stuff for free. And the post house that I work for ended up coming on as a producer and helping us in kind, doing some of the finishing and coloring and stuff.
Well, that's ideal.
Very helpful.
Okay, so you wrap the movie. What happens after that where you're like, I have a movie?
Yeah, well, so to be honest, about a year before we finally wrapped the movie, I thought I was done and started submitting it to festivals and wasn't getting in. And that's when I took it back and started recutting it for about a year and a half.
And then for those of us who don't know, like, how do you submit to a festival? Is it about who you know, or is it just straight up online?
Yeah, it's kind of democratized now. There's a site called Film Freeway. It used to be called Without a Box, and probably 95% of film festivals run off this site. And it's kind of like Amazon. Like, you can select 10 festivals and submit with one click.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so it's like, it gets very expensive very fast because just like Amazon, and it's very easy to just be like, I'll take that one, I'll take that one, I'll take that one.
Yeah.
But it's pretty easy these days, and the 5% or so that are not on that, you just go to their website and you fill out a form and pay their fee and submit on Vimeo or Dropbox or something.
And are different festivals looking for different type of things when it comes to their films?
Yeah, well, that was something. So I've been working in editing so long, I had really never done this part of it.
Right.
Like, I'd never submitted to festivals. I realized, like,
you got to learn your pitch.
Yeah, I've never done this. And Cher, our wonderful PR person, is in the room. I had no idea what I was doing.
You're like, now I have to talk
about
stuff. This? What?
I know. I was like, I guess I'll have to formulate a synopsis that sells the film in a specific way, and all that stuff was interesting. It was difficult for me, and I'm spoiled by getting to send out a cool press thing for some of this Netflix stuff I'm lucky enough to get to work on that somebody else, a brilliant PR person, got to write and so it was daunting.
You're wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah, a lot that I had never worn before. But
so how did you lean into that process?
I just acted as if, to be completely honest. I don't know. I tried to pretend I was look, I feel like I learned a lot and I would love to direct again. And so it was a really great experience for me as far as that's concerned. But it was an anxiety riddled experience trying to for the first time be the face of a thing. Mm-hmm. I think that was daunting for me. Yeah. So I'll do it better the next time.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting with documentaries too. 'Cause of course, the subject line is what the film is about and what the project is about. But at the end of the day, you're kind of the focus of...
But I'm in it too. Yeah. And it's really this kind of sort of also a story of me making the thing on
your relationship. Really too.
So it was really putting myself out there in a way that I'm never done. I'm not an actor. I'm not a director by trade. And being in it and fronting it, it was a lot for me, to be honest. But, to jump back to your earlier question about festivals, after that year of recutting it and everything, when we finally got it to a place where we felt like it was ready, we submitted it to Slamdance. Was our first festival on our list that we submitted it to, and we got in right away.
And was this in 2022?
This is the very end of 2022. Okay. So we probably submitted 3 months before we learned we got in or something. And it was the first one that we submitted to after this whole recut. And so when we learned we got in, we were still in Avid. We had to rush to finish the film and color correct and sound mix and all this stuff. So, it was a crazy, crazy experience.
But again, like we were saying before, you had a full deadline. You had to get it done.
It was great in that sense. 'Cause also part of the reason it took 8 years was if you don't have a firm deadline, you're always going to find something else to do on it. And it was nice to be okay, a month and a half. We're going to be done with this no matter what. Yeah.
So you submitted to Slamdance with just a trailer, right?
No, with the film out of Avid.
Okay.
So with the cut, but it wasn't color corrected. It didn't have a final sound mix. It had a bunch of subtitles that I because when we did the final sound mix, I was able to kill a bunch of subtitles, but there was lines you couldn't hear. We were surprised we got into such a good festival, to be honest, just because the film was quality, but it wasn't finished. It really didn't look like a finished film yet.
And when you're submitting, do they know that?
Well, we didn't say it.
Okay.
But we kind of figured you'd know, but I assumed saw something in it and must have either known that it was going to be finished properly, or I'm a better color corrector in Avid than I thought I was, I guess. I don't know.
Got it.
So it got accepted.
Is that typical from your knowledge of films that
I'm not usually on this side of it, so I don't know. Typical? I don't know. I wouldn't think so. That's why we were surprised. We figured it, we were like, we didn't want to miss the deadline. It was one of the big festivals on our list. So we were like, well, it's coming up.
Let's go.
Might as well.
Let's go.
But yeah, if we had missed it wouldn't have been for another year that we could have been there. And a lot of those top tier festivals, they only want your world premiere. So once you've premiered at another festival, even if it was the next year, Slamdance probably wouldn't have taken us. So we were just like, well, might as well try.
All right. Yeah. So then you have this deadline, and then on top of it, you're like, oh, now we have to figure out how to do marketing, how to do PR, how do you meet Cher?
Absolutely crazy. Well, we met Cher through, we just started hitting the pavement, and immediately we needed to hire sound mixer. I was lucky enough that my company came in for colorist, but, and color and conform, but, website design is everything. We needed everything.
Did you know all the steps?
To all the things that we need. I knew all the things we need just because I've done this enough. I knew what it would entail. I'd never done any of those roles, but I knew the people we'd need to hire.
Okay. So you at least had a checklist of let me figure this out. Okay. Because that's hard in itself. If you didn't know.
Yeah.
If you're
it's hard.
Total new, not in the industry, or I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, we felt in some ways ahead of the curve, in other ways way behind. When we got there, we saw some films and we were like, oh, we're not ahead of the curve at all. These people are their whole marketing, and they showed up with t-shirts and all this stuff. But anyway, we met Cher through just pounding the pavement and interviewing a bunch of PR people. She was just far and away the best one. It was no contest. Yeah. She's been incredibly helpful to us this entire time, and truly led me by the hand through being the face of a thing, which is for a person with anxiety, not an easy thing. It was it was tough for me. The Q&A, all of it. It was hard for me to do. Yeah.
I mean, what are Q&As like? Is it pretty hard hitting questions, or is it
No,
more...
it was nice. It was like this. It was a lovely conversation, but it was, I am very passionate about film editing. It's what I want to do for the rest of my life. Yeah. And I really want to use this film as an opportunity to kind of propel me forward in that sense. But
that's interesting. So you want to use this.
Yeah. So that's a difficult thing to answer questions about, and in Q&As and stuff, they want to be like, what's the next thing you're directing? Yeah. I'm like, well, I'm cutting a feature next. That's what I'm doing. And so I really made it initially to try to attract more work my way, and now I'm kind of booking better. I'm lucky that work is coming anyway, and now I'm in a position where I'm very proud of the film and very happy for the reception it's getting, and no longer exactly know what I'm looking for from it, but I'm thrilled for the opportunity, and I hope it brings more editing work my way.
So you're not necessarily itching to direct again?
I think I will someday. Yeah. I really enjoy it.
Feature or documentary?
Probably both. I mean, the next thing John and I are talking about doing is a narrative short, a proof of concept short. Yep. And I'd be directing that, and it's certainly something that I enjoyed, and I think that I could do better a second time, and also maybe do better if it wasn't about an openly combative friend of mine who wasn't taking the thing seriously. As amazing as I think it turned out for his combativeness, I think I could probably with a more game partner make a different movie next time, but it also was very clarifying and revealing for the parts of filmmaking that I really, really enjoy and the parts that I don't. And
what did directing this film and creating this film teach you about editing?
So much. And in that sense, it was that was the best part of this, that I feel I grew tremendously as an editor from having to in a way deal with not the best director in the world, which is myself, or a very inexperienced director. Right. I really was making something out of nothing a lot. I felt not nothing, but making the best of disparate pieces that could have been done better by someone with more foresight is not I don't know, with more of an idea of what the final shape of it would be.
Okay, right.
And I think it takes a couple of movies for you to know going in what that's going to be. But
I mean, people make a ton of movies and still don't know what they're doing or their next direction, anything like that. So let's go back to Slam Dance though. So you premiere the movie, you've got 2 screenings, you're in this like party, fun industry, like fun event. Then you come back to LA and you're like, well, what's next? What is next?
Well,
with the film.
Yeah, for the film?
Yeah.
So the film we've submitted to like 40 festivals. Okay. We hope to do like the next like a waiting game. Yeah, we've gotten into our next one, so we're gonna premiere in Atlanta the beginning of next month at the International Doc Fest of Atlanta, and I shouldn't talk about it, but we've got some they haven't announced yet. We can't announce yet, but some coming up in March and April right after that one. But we also have a sales team, and we're trying to find the film a permanent home.
I mean, that's a whole other.
Yeah, and a whole very new for me. Everything I've worked on in the last decade really has like already had a distribution model attached from the jump. So like I have not had to deal with like, will this come out or how or what that will look like, and so that's been a whole experience.
In your mind, what's the best? I don't want to like pin you in a corner, but what's the best distribution partner?
I truly don't care where it ends up. I just want, I mean, like,
you're not like, oh my God, this is HBO gotten written all over.
No. Okay. I think that it's interesting. The question you asked a while ago about like the type of film that gets into certain film festivals, I think that's really true. Like one thing we found about this film submitting it, people call it the spray and pray method on Film Freeway, which is like
a great term.
It's not great, but you just spray you submit everywhere and you just pray that you get in anywhere, because then you can decide if you get accepted. You don't have to play there. You can decide what you want to play at. But where was I going with this? Oh, so I sort of feel the same way. We learned a lot about like what type of festival this film would be right for. And so I kind of feel the same way about the distribution model. Like whoever takes it, like it's probably more of a adult swimmy IFC kind of a film.
Well,
like,
because that's a perfect line with the subject. Yeah.
Sure. But it's, like sarcastic, irreverent kind of a piece. I don't think it's probably, Lifetime's bag or whatever,
well, no.
But
you don't want that anyway. No, so, I mean, I'll take turn it down, but
certainly I just want the film to have a home. Like I think that I think the film is quality and it deserves it, but I think that he deserves it, and his sort of worldview and philosophies in music deserve a wider audience. So just some place that I could send people in the direction of that they could see it, that hopefully won't go under. There's a couple of streaming channels that feel like they might not be long for this world. So maybe one of the more established ones.
Yeah, a little Netflix situation.
Would be wonderful.
I could see it on Netflix.
I would love that. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. What about Laurent's career? Like, how has that progressed since he was wrapped filming?
Yeah, he's killing it. He's got back from a big European tour. He's in this band. It's him and it's like kind of like Run the Jewels. It's him and one other rapper named Marlo. Marlo is the name of the band. They've released 3 albums. And
I love that vibe. That vibe is like, this sounds bad, but this is like totally my vibe. But chilling at a pool with like a nice cocktail, like a high-end hotel. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's well, they're kind of tapping into that vibe. Okay.
And they like they were the soundtrack to Harmony Korine's new 7-Eleven and Gatorade campaigns. Like they're doing real well. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And all 3 of these albums have just gotten reviewed like crazy on Pitchfork, and so like they're incredibly critically praised, and I think he's doing great. He's like really found ways to continue making music with the issues that he's got. I mean, the hearing issues you'd think could knock a person out of his career path entirely, but he's really like he's more full force in it now than he was before.
Well, it sounds like, it's such a driving force in his whole life. Like he wouldn't know what to do without it. Yeah, clearly. So it's like you just find you find the why and you just figure out how.
Yeah.
So
that's absolutely true.
How did it affect your friendship overall?
It really did. It was hard. I'm not going to lie. Like it was, a couple of weeks before it premiered even, we had like a full on.
Did you?
Yeah. I mean, it was a hard process.
He hadn't even seen the movie.
No, never. Yeah. It was all about our little fight there was mostly about, that I wasn't communicating with him as much as he wanted me to, like that I wasn't being a good friend essentially. And he's totally right. Like
so you were more on like the film mindset, and he was like, "No, yo, I want to just be a friend."
Yeah, I get real locked in.
Okay.
I get real hyper focused on what I'm working on. Kind of no matter what I'm working on, it's just like my personality type is to put my head down and just do the work and come up for breath at midnight when I go to bed or whatever. But he, especially because there were years there where he wasn't hearing like updates on the film to also not hear from me, you know, as much as he wanted to or whatever. Like I wasn't communicating with him.
And it's not like you guys are in the same place. You're like, hey, let's go hang out.
But it put a lot of walls between me and probably my oldest best friend. Yeah. It was a very weird experience, and it was mostly from my side. Like the reason we weren't communicating was that I was feeling weird. Like I was feeling, this pressure to not ruin his life with making a terrible movie and putting it out. B, this pressure to have it live up to the time we were spending on it and the energy, which by the day was getting more, longer and longer. And, by the 6th or 7th year, it was kind of like, okay, this needs to be really good at this point, or everyone's gonna be like, well, why did it take this long? And then, there was just sort of a feeling of like, is he going to like it? Like, am I focusing on the right things? Am I living up to the aspects of his life that he would want showcased in a movie? Mm-hmm. And I just got really up in my head. There was years there where I was like, I don't know if I am. And I was showing it to people, and people were, giving me conflicting notes. And it really, like, by the end, it took me kind of saying, like, I don't care what anybody thinks of the movie. Right. Don't care what it was supposed to accomplish for him. And
you, in those moments, you didn't find the point to, like, just call him and be like, this is the direction.
That would have been the smart thing to do. Because when I was communicating with him, and when we were able to talk about what I was doing on the film, it was hard because he hadn't seen it.
Right.
But when we were able to talk about it, he would give me like notes that were kind of helpful, and like he would kind of help me think about it in ways that were helpful. Right. So I should have been communicating with him a lot more.
Because it's like his personal life, and he's maybe seen his life a different way than be better seeing the lens. Right. Yeah. But you also need like outsider's perspective sometimes on your own. Yeah, I think own things.
It's interesting. The outsider's perspective was like both helpful and hurtful. It was. I showed it to, like, I had a producer on it, Jim Haygood, who's an incredible film editor who cut Fight Club and Tron Legacy, like some of the greatest movies. So if anybody knows story and structure, it's him. And I got some incredible notes from him, but then I would show it to other brilliant film editors who had completely conflicting notes. And one isn't right and one's not wrong, it's subjective. So
I think that's the hardest thing about the entertainment industry in general is like there's so many voices, and then there's also so many egos, and everybody thinks that their opinion is right. And, to an extent, everybody is, but then you as the filmmaker have to make
that's the thing is like each person is right about the film that in their head they think I'm trying to make.
Right.
But in the end, the film I'm trying to make might have nothing to do with even the scenes that they just saw in this rough cut I just showed. Like, it might just be something that only I could articulate, and maybe even I can't articulate. It's just stuck in my head, and I need to do it in order to get it out. So it was hard. I don't know. It was hard to show people in a rough state and try to defend what it was and explain what it was supposed to be and what it was going to be in the future. And by the end, I think the feedback kind of helped and hurt. It probably elongated the process. I should have shown it to fewer people.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I was just going to say, like, what did that teach you about how you show your work to other individuals, whether that be like your next films or another project that you're working on as an editor?
Yeah, I mean, like I think I learned a lot more from like putting it on in rooms of people and just sitting there and experiencing them watching it than I did from sending it to people and asking for like pages of notes. Yeah. Because then you ask for pages of notes and people are going to give it to you.
They're going to give it to you.
They're going to like look for
They're like, let me get my red pen.
Exactly.
This will be
like,
fun.
It's not that they're not wrong about all the things they're saying. Again, it's all subjective, but like, what you get, especially as an editor, just sitting in the room, is like you can feel the dips. You can feel when people are losing steam, losing interest. Oh, yeah. You can, I mean, if you're a perceptive editor, like you can feel the energy in the room shift when people are bored. And, I think it tells you a lot more than, you know, if they go back and write notes, they're just going to be like, this 5 minutes felt slow. And then that's all you get. But if you can feel like when they perked back up or what perked them back up, you know better what to lean into. Like a lot of times it's not, people will give you the problem and a solution, and the problem is correct. Their solution is not correct.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Yeah. So how do you think, and this is kind of maybe a difficult question to answer, but since the premiere, watching everyone watch the film for the first time, how do you think your perspective of the film overall is going to change in now the third showing at the next festival?
I mean, it was surreal experience, I have to say. It was like a fever dream. I remember very little of the actual premiere day because it was like just 8 years of build up to this one thing.
You just blacked out.
Yeah, it was like it was over so fast. It was like riding a roller coaster. It felt like the whole thing was the clicking up the mountain, and then it was over so quickly. But so I'm not going to be able to go to this next one in Atlanta. Okay. My DP and my producer are going to be there. I'm going to be at the one after that. We can't talk about it yet, but I'm the second screening at Slam Dance. I was able to like really enjoy and like sit back, and it was also like in the interim, our wonderful PR person Cher booked us some really incredible interviews with Austin, and I got to like sit in a room and hear him talk about the film, having seen the film, because all the stuff we had done leading up, he was being his normal combative self, but he hadn't seen the film yet, so I didn't know what his thoughts would be. I didn't know, honestly, knowing him, if he was going to shit all over it.
He would have said it.
Curse if I,
you can say whatever the fuck you want.
Cool. I didn't know if he was going to shit all over it into a microphone, which would have like really torpedoed the film. And so,
or brought intrigue. I don't know. Yeah, that's like a PR move, right, Cher?
I worry because like there was a movie a couple years ago. I don't know if I should be talking about. There's a movie. Alanis Morissette made a HBO doc a couple years ago that right before it came out, she kind of torpedoed in the press and was like, I finally got to see it. It is not at all what we talked about, and it is not what I would have wanted to. And so I was like, I was worried because it hurt that film.
Did it?
I mean, it of course would. Like any film that's trying to say this is a person's life, if that person is like, no, it is not, who's going to want to watch that film? So I was worried about that. But in the interim, he made it clear how much he liked it and respected what I did with it, and was happy that it touched on certain topics, and I think he got to experience hearing other people talk about it, which is super helpful for him, because like a lot of people were saying things like this is going to help people dealing with the same kinds of depression issues and the same kinds of, and I think that really meant a lot to him.
That's huge.
Yeah, and so getting to go into the second screening, like just kind of knowing where where my core team stood on the film was amazing. It really took a lot of pressure off.
Did that kind of blend your friendship a little bit?
Blend?
Or like not blend, mend? Like mend. Yes.
We were fine. I mean, we've known each other so long, even like that little tiff we had before Slam Dance, like we've had those before.
Yeah, it's not nothing new.
Friends fight.
Yeah.
But it definitely like we went bowling after that, and it was just so chill.
Bowling,
and it was,
like that's your thing.
I don't know why. Yes, but it was just so chill, and it felt great. It felt like I had gotten to a different place where, like, I know this sounds stupid, but it was like a 2.0 for my life. Like the last 8 years where this project was in my life, and like, I would skip going to parties and whatever, hanging out on the weekends to put time into finishing the hat, as you will. And
well, it kind of is your 2.0, because that's making the movie is what the bottom of the iceberg that nobody really sees of the 8 years and the work and all of your other jobs that you're working on while making this. And now distribution's like the shiny part of the iceberg that everyone sees.
Getting it out there is really the final outcome. So it felt like a new dawn for everything, for our friendship and everybody, but also just like for me, I felt like I was in a much like I could just breathe. It was great. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the year, getting to go to festivals and just enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. Go to the parties and have fun.
Yeah, like even that the Slam Dance party was on. It was after our first screening, so that was fun. But I was still a little tense. Like that whole day, I was.
Yeah. I can only imagine. It's like nerve-wracking.
It was a lot.
So, people listening to this, watching this, wherever they're seeing it, they can see it at festivals to be released, and then hopefully down the line,
within the next year,
some type of distribution. So just everyone's got to stay posted,
unfortunately.
So where can they kind of keep up with the progress? And
themadwriterfilm.com.
Okay.
And we got our trailer, we got lots of pictures, all the stuff that you can watch so far, you can watch on there. Hopefully we'll post this to themadwriterfilm.com. You can watch some cool press stuff we've got on there, but unfortunately it'll be another couple months before folks can watch it at home.
Awesome. Well, Zach, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me. We're done. This is it?
We're done.
Oh, well, this is great. This is so much fun.
And we keep going. What else do you guys? LJ, got any questions from the?
Always covered. It's beautiful.
Love it.